right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of Who Left the Gate Open. I'm super excited to have my guest along here today, Trevor Ferguson, from the great town of Springview, Nebraska. Really happy to have you on here, Trevor. How's things going up in Springview these days?
Oh, not too bad. Just a little dry. Need a little more rain. Hopefully
A little
tonight. Pretty
more
good chance tonight and all weekend. So hopefully get a little something.
for all the folks I work with that sell PRF insurance, probably are debating you on that, but stuff happens.
That's no kidding.
Okay, let's go to the start here. So when you grew up in Springview your whole life, went to Springview for school, I'm guessing, all that.
Yep.
Is that correct? Yep.
Yep. The old good old Kippaha County. Most
Oh
people
God,
can't pronounce it, so
you
it's
gotta
got
love that.
to.
And so you went off. Did you go to college? You stay home? Did you
I
what was the deal there?
I did. I went down to UNK. Got a degree in ag business. I attended every class and got straight A's. And if you
That's
believe
that's
that.
That's how my college career went. I would say about the same. I went
Yeah.
to Northeast myself, but the only time I've been in Kearney and was able to drink, one of my buddy's girlfriends went there, and I just freshly turned 21. We went in this bar, and my buddy Nelson got me a fresh Jack and Coke, and they're dancing or whatever, and there's this ledge. And I look over at Nelson. I said, I'm going to get up there and bust a move. And he goes, okay, man. And some guy looks at me. He's like, don't get up there. I said, fuck you, bud. I'm getting up there. So I stood up there, slipped, fell backwards on a table, Jack and Coke all over the shirt. He didn't buy me another drink. That's the only time I've been in the great town of Kearney. And then one other time I guess both times I've been there, I just got a little out of hand. But great town. You went there for ag business.
Yep.
Um, all 4 years, and then you came home. Was that your intent, or did you go in when you were down in school? Were you working somewhere else? Were you getting some experience doing something else, or did you commute, a lot to come home and help on the ranch, or what was that like?
Yeah, I came back a lot of weekends. And I always planned to come back. It was always the goal. So dad kind of said, get a degree, you got something to fall back on. And so I went down there, did that, and they somehow, signed off on a degree for me and here we are.
You
Eight
know,
years
most
later, I think. Been 8 years since I graduated down there, so
most people are just getting, you start to worry a little bit with all the AI and stuff now that, the people, doctors, or they, if I, when I was in school, if I knew about Chat GPT, I wouldn't have done homework to begin with. I wasn't doing much homework to start. But now a guy's got to worry a little bit with stuff like that because I know my aunt works in the school system and she says that stuff they can detect it, but that'd been 8 years ago. Shit, you had a good computer, you wouldn't have went to class at all. Just Chat GPT'd all the assignments. You would have been in the shade.
that's no kidding. I procrastinated about everything. I had a lot of, you know, midnight assignments that I started about 10:30, so ChatGPT would have helped me out then. I was back when we had to pull off some quick essays in a short amount of time.
Yeah, I've had my fair share. Maybe copying somebody's homework and not changing it enough and maybe getting a little bit of trouble, but there's effort there,
You got to try.
but
If you ain't cheating, you ain't
so
trying.
you bet. Oh, oh, Trevor, you are obviously married, have a couple of kids. How was the conversation going with your wife now to come back, move to Springview and live up there with you and just kind of, it's harder to live in those small towns when you're not from there, obviously, you don't know a lot of folks, but how did that conversation go for you and just anybody out there that could be in that situation? They got a girlfriend that may be from the bigger city, not know the small town life. Was it easy? Was it a tough transition? How'd it go for you?
You know, so she is originally from Albion, So it's not, it's quite a bit bigger than Springview, but she had a little bit of knowledge of smaller towns. And then we dated for about 6 years. So she'd been up here a lot of times and kind of got accustomed to it. And at first, I don't think, she was too sold on it, but as time went on, you really see the value of being in a small town and, being close with the community and everything. So she really enjoys it now.
And does she have to commute for work every day, or what's that look like, or what does she do?
So she's an occupational therapist and she did work at the Brown County Hospital for about a year. And so she was driving back and forth, but then she got a job. Right now she's working an online type of gig. It's kind of through the school system and kind of works with kids online. So, and she's really
Oh,
enjoying
yeah.
it. And
So
and
works out a little bit, little remote work, you could say.
yep, little
Work from
remote
home.
work. Yep.
Okay, perfect. What would you say the bigger challenge is having the kids? I mean, I got two dogs and I can barely handle myself. What piece of advice were you ready to have kids, or just kind of happened, or what's your take on that?
Yeah, we were ready. We'd been married for about a year or 2 years before we had our first, and like the old adage is, you just never know until you're in the middle of it. That's about how it is, and I'm sure it's different for everybody. But we were lucky with the first one. She slept good through the nights and all that, and so we heard all these horror stories about, oh, you're never gonna sleep again and all this and that. But she slept good, and our youngest, he's just a month old, and he's sleeping good and growing. So I my
Yeah,
advice is my advice is have them young and have as many as you can. I think it's great.
oh, good God, I don't know about that. I can barely take care of myself. But yeah, no, that's probably good advice. You seem to have your head screwed on, right? I'm a different cat, you know. I can't be tied down. No, I'm just joking around. But then obviously, you're working, you just came out of your calving season, you have the 1 year old. For just pure lack of sleep, what's kind of your get up and get after it? Fill the big gulp with just Folgers and get after it, or is that the play? Or
You can get a lot done on a couple cups of coffee and, some grit, I guess. Just
yeah,
just put your head down and, you know, fill the Folgers up and go after it. But yeah, it's definitely a challenge because you're tired and then you got middle of the night, you got a little one, at the side of your bed all of a sudden and you're up half the night, but it's well worth it. But you
yeah.
definitely, if you're used to about 8 hours of sleep, you probably, you know, it'll be a few years before you get your full 8 hours again, I think.
Sure, and I've done a couple cabin seasons working with my uncle, and I don't know. Obviously, I don't advise anybody going to the bar and having about 14 beers and then saying I'll take the 3 o'clock. That never played out for me. I'd get home and then I'd be like, "Oh, you just got to stay awake, Tom." And then I'd end up, missing my check, and then I don't know. That's a long talk in the morning when you show up to the shop and get asked how your check went, and you're just kind of sitting there with a blank stare and probably a mild hangover, and you're like, I get it. Everything looked good. Most of the times I did it though, it was pretty good weather, so we never ran
Yeah.
into anything too bad. But just for the calving season, you guys got pretty lucky, pretty good weather this year.
Yeah, we did end up having some pretty good weather. It actually got really hot there. Like, I think one week we set the record low and the record high for that. I think it was in March, the end of March, or maybe the beginning of April. Anyway, it was 90 degrees at the end of the week, but the like Sunday night, I think it hit -5 or something. We literally we were warming up calves on Sunday night, and by Friday we were drenching calves because they were too hot, couldn't get up. So that was
That's
a
just
strange week.
that's tough on the herd for
Yeah,
just those girls to go from hot to cold, cold to hot type deal. That always
yeah.
throws a wrench in things. And uh, just with the good weather, did you have a pretty good birth rate? Did you lose a couple? For folks that I keep up with the YouTube channel, but for the folks that haven't quite dug into the Flatlander ag production, how did that all work out for you?
Well, I appreciate it. It went pretty good. there was about a week stretch. It was, I mean, we were doing really good on birth rate, and there was about a week stretch where it just felt like bad luck after bad luck. And if you got them, you're gonna lose some. But all in all, I bet we still did pretty good.
Sure.
I can tell you
So
the exact percentage. I can tell you, but below 5%, I'm sure.
oh, that's do you guys so like the dynamic with just your ranch and how things go about, is it just you and your dad? Do you have a hired guy, or do you guys are you guys able to just kind of work as a pair and get it all done?
So yeah, so I can't take any credit for like the operation. That's since my dad and uncle's place. And my uncle actually kind of does we have a feed yard also. And so he
Okay.
does all the feed yard stuff. Of course, we all work together,
Mm-hmm.
but dad has always been the cow calf. And then so I work on that side more so. And then down at the feed yard, they've got several hired hands and, kind of a family. I got some younger cousins coming back and working there. So it's kind of a family dynamic, but we've got, probably four other guys that work there too. So
Okay. Yeah. Do you have like any brothers or sisters that maybe just didn't care to come back to the ranch, or just are you kind of only child, or what's that look like?
I've got two older sisters and they also live here in Springview. And so I mean, they do, help when they can and their husbands too, but they're not directly involved at the moment.
Sure.
So
Sure. And how the ranch get started? Was it your grandpa? How did things get going? Because I know obviously just like probably your dad's age was kind of coming into just kind of a tough era. I know my grandpa started how he kind of got into things. He started milking cows in like 88, I think. And that's how he kind of just started farming, was he had to milk cows and stuff. But did your grandpa, great grandpa, who kind of started the ranch there?
so yeah, it I could make it a long story, but my dad and uncle actually uh so they started their partnership back in like maybe 1980, and they were working with another like they rented the ground for
Mm-hmm.
years and years, probably probably 30 years, 30 something years. And then they had the opportunity to buy it just in, probably, I want to say maybe 2012. So technically it's a first generation, operation, but my grandpa was farmer ranch. We can trace our lineage back in the Fergusons like six generations of, livestock and ag production. So first generation
And
on this place, but many generations in the making kind of deal.
and your grandpa, he did farm a little bit. Just back in the day, you kind of had to do almost both. If you were going to do one, it seemed like you just kind of had to make ends meet by doing both almost.
Right. So yeah, my grandpa farmed for years in Loop County, down by Taylor. And
Okay.
then, however it was, ended up taking a job in Kibbeha County, and he managed the Lazy AB Ranch for years. And then when he was done with that, he actually worked for my dad and my uncle for a number of years. And so that's how
Okay.
that's how we got into this area. My grandpa got a job managing a ranch up here. But he's originally from Taylor, Nebraska.
Okay. Okay. Down Taylor's like Burwell area, kind
Yep.
of. Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Um, and then so your dad and uncle, and then like, do you or okay, so you and your dad run the cow calf. Do you like do you buy cows on your own, or do you and your dad just kind of have a partnership, or do you kind of have your own herd that kind of just incorporates with your dad, or how does that all work?
Well, really, I don't. I have one cow. One cow is my herd right now. So really, I'm just on a wage. I get to buy. What I do more of is I buy calves and we'll background those, and then they'll go down to the feed yard. And so I'm more. That's what I have. I get the opportunity to do. So because the cow herd, it just kind of it's all my dad and uncles, and so we don't buy any cows. We just keep our replacements and keep bowls and such like that and do all the AI. And so kind of get to be in on we do about every part of cattle production from cow calf, background, and then finish.
Sure, sure. And up in Springview, there's not a lot of really row crop farming, is there?
There's a lot, I mean, there's pivots, but most of it, I mean, I wouldn't say most of it. There's a lot of corn really in Kippaha, on irrigated, some dry land, but a lot of that, like all of ours that we plant, is all chopped to silage and fed through the down at the feed yard and
Sure.
at Dad's place too.
Coming up, it's looking like it's gonna maybe be a dry, maybe hay season. Do you guys do some custom haying? What's the outfit look like? What kind of equipment are you running? Are you running, bar mowers? Do you have a windrower? You have a couple balers? Do you put up a lot of bales? What's that kind of look like?
Yep, we do put up a lot of hay just of our own. We rent some ground that has good low meadows on it, and we got some school land ground that has a good low meadow, and so we're going to be scaling back this year. We let one meadow go, but God, I want to say last year we put up 6,000 bales, I think. So we put up a pretty good amount of hay, and then we've got a couple disc bind mowers, and then we do have a disc bind windrower. We've got two balers. I think one's a 560M and maybe a 560. I can't even think. 560M and a 560 premium maybe, and then an old Vermeer rake, and then a God, what's the other one? An H&S rake maybe, wheel rake. But yep, that's the. Oh, and then we got one of those big accumulators. I think they make them in Atkinson. Those big. I think you can pick up and haul like 12 bales. Got arms on each side. Makes piling hay a lot easier than the old bale fork back in the day. But
Oh, you're talking double bale mover, six on each
yeah,
side, two arm. Those are a slick outfit because even just running a single arm one, it takes a lot more time than the guy thinks. That's one kind of underrated time consumer. There is baling obviously takes its time, but going up and just picking up all the bales that can take up a lot of guys' time as well.
yeah.
So, you said you're running 560Ms. Do you think, what are your thoughts on like just the used equipment market these days? It's just hard to, anything. I seen a clip on social media. A guy was talking if everybody would quit buying, they put out those tractors and stuff that cost an arm and a leg, and everybody quits buying them. They'd bring the price down, but people still buy them. So, just for a ranch like that, is it hard to come into some equipment when you're needing something, or do you guys trade in stuff, or how does that work?
We just kind of if we're needing, for the most part, we just repair everything unless we're really, you know, a good deal comes up, you know. But for the most part, we're just repairing what we got and keeping her going, which is a pretty hefty bill, I'd imagine, right there
Sure.
anyway.
And then when you guys do have something goes south, is there a place in Springview where you can go and get parts and stuff like that, or is that a Bassett run or O'Neill, or what's something like that look? Because that can, you got a baler down and there's rain coming and you got to make a 45-minute drive one way to go get a part that can really put a guy in a pinch.
Right. Yeah, so for like the New Holland stuff, we go to Bassett there, the Sandhill equipment, and then for our John Deere stuff, we go to Acres there, and Ainsworth has a Acres branch there, so used to be something else, but I seen it. O'Neill has that put that big old Acres
Oh
shop
yeah,
in.
you
Jeez.
gotta love it. There's a lot of money in that whole county, all
Oh
those
man.
big farmers. But I'm
Oh
not,
yeah.
anybody listening to this, my 100 viewers, I'm not dissing on anybody. Farming's, a great deal for the community. But yeah, that building is a bruiser. I
Oh
don't
man.
know. All the mechanics in there, the newer stuff has just got to be a pain in the ass. I mean, the older stuff, a guy can fix, but this newer stuff with all the computers and stuff, you can really run into just wires that just
Oh
really
yeah.
make you scratch your head. So,
Yeah, we have a 6150R. It's like the newest tractor we have. And it's been blinking at me for a long time, telling me I got to change the time interval on the oil change. And of course, I've changed it several times, but it tells me I'm about 2,000 hours over the oil change, but I just don't know how to reset the dang thing.
Sure. And you 6150, my uncle has a 6155. How do you what do you think about the dust and the radiators on those? Or do you find yourself knocking the radiator off a lot? Because I know when I was bailing, that son of a bitch would get, I mean, it's hot and you're sucking dust and you were outside the tractor stopping your baler every hour, hour and a half, and it just gets
Yep.
to be a real pain after a while.
Yep. Yep. They do. It does seem like these newer, I've never really thought about it, but it does seem like you gotta clean them out a little more often, or maybe it's because the gauges actually work on these new tractors, and you can tell when it's getting hot rather than the old 4455. You just kind of gotta
Oh God. Yeah,
feel her
that's
out.
we'd get late season. We'd take the 6155 off and throw the 4440 on it, and you could just run that thing. I mean, there's no heat gauge coming on that. You just roll up, hey, no problem, without worried about it getting hot. So yeah, that's just it's an interesting time for just like, those 4440s. They're not going to make a better tractor, truthfully, for
I
um,
agree.
stuff like that. Just and they're hard to find, and if you do find one, it's probably going to be overhauled. And I don't know how you feel about that, but just you can get into some high hour machines that could cost you more than the piece of equipment. So that's always an interesting conversation I hear a lot about. So um yeah, I just didn't know if you guys are running some newer stuff or just kind of holding on to the good old equipment that you're not, that newer stuff you can really get into a bind.
We've we've
Fix.
kind of got a we've kind of got a mix. Like for haying, we put a mower on the 4455 and a baler on the old 4050, and then if we got to get the old 4430 quad out there to rake in, we'll do it. But usually, she kind of stays by the house. Doesn't probably a fire hazard at this point.
Well, that's the beauty of a machine. I've seen you really love throwing that thing on the box scraper and just going to
Oh
town on
yeah,
it. That's it. Those
that's
are, I
right.
mean, you'll never get rid of it. That's the best part. You're never
You
going to get
can't.
rid of that tractor.
Yep, you can't. Yeah, that's the tractor I learned to drive on when I was probably like 8. Dad, threw me up there and said, "You're gonna have to learn how to rake hay today." So
Yeah,
here
no,
we go.
yeah. I got my grandpa's got this New Holland little loader that he just thinks the world of. He's got equipment to do the job, but if he can just cabless New Holland, I mean, this thing can't be more than 95 horsepower. But yeah, when I was about, 10 or however old, that's what I got thrown on the rake. And my dad drew a line in the dust on the hood and he said, "Keep this fucking thing dead nuts and don't like." I was like, "All right, man." He's kind of a hard ass, but yeah. So that's what I kind of learned. And then I just was your growing up. Was your dad like open to you kind of running a lot of stuff? I know just from my dad and grandpa, it was always just privilege to go out and run a piece of equipment like that. Or did you come into it early? I know just like my little cousins and stuff, they're my uncle taught them pretty young. So I mean, my one little cousin, he's a seventh grader. He's running combine and he's pretty handy. But like, how was your experience with that?
Yeah, you definitely had to work your way up the ladder. I spent a lot of summers just on the old 4430 raking. And then, as I got, older, obviously you get to bail a little bit and then you get thrown in the windrower and such like that. And oh, and like in the winter in the feed tractor and such. So running processor. So yeah, just over time, just learning, each piece of equipment and what to run it and what to do when it
And
breaks
just
down usually.
And just with kind of your operation, for as far as you say processor goes, do you have, it seems when you're recording, you make some pretty long treks to maybe get to some cows and stuff like that. Do you have one of those long processors, or do you just have a two bale, or what is that kind of, what are you guys working with for that?
Yeah, we've got one that's a 3 bale. What is it? D&W, I think they are called. And then one's a 6. My uncle just had it extended because it used to just be 5, but you could almost get 6 on, but the sixth one would always fall off. So he had it extended a little bit so that sixth one would hang on. But But yeah, usually when we're making the long treks, we're usually just in the feed truck or the feed wagon, got the ground hay mixed in there and such like that.
And just the way your operations kind of set up, is it all pretty well connected, or do you have to drive down the road and go to this meadow maybe, or do you kind of just cut through all your guys' ground, or are you cutting through some other guys' ground to get to some cows, or is it all fairly connected?
Yeah, so like Highway 183 runs through Springview, and my uncle's place, like the feed yard and such, and he's got some pivots in the meadow over there, but it's about 5 miles from where my dad's place is, and then we rent some ground. It's about 8 miles from dad's, and then we rent some corn stalks that are over there. So we're making some treks, once in a while. But by the time cabin starts, we're pretty, get everything around the place and
Yeah, pretty
everything.
close to home.
Yeah, when we're cabin for sure. So
Um, and just coming off your calving season here, just as far as where you go with pasture, because looking at your pasture season here, you may have to do quite a bit of rotating if the grass isn't going to grow back very good. Do you guys are you guys able to rent it? I seen on your one video you guys have a truck that must be pretty handy, and then your horse trailer you were running, but you have some long treks. Do you have to go maybe to a different county for some pasture, or are you guys fortunate enough to keep it all pretty close to the home place there?
it's all pretty close. Like the farthest we go is that 8 miles probably now. And so, yeah, we run 160 cows in one spot and 140, and then dad's place runs about 120-ish. So we're able to kind of stick pretty close. There's no going, we don't have to make a 20-minute or 30-minute drive to any grass. So we're pretty fortunate for that.
Yeah, that is yeah, I know just with my uncle and such, he's kind of got to run all over the place to, get some grass. But yeah, no, that is very handy for somebody to just have it all close and just hop on the four-wheeler and go check the groups maybe every couple days or however you guys go about it. But just with the kind of the recent cattle market, obviously a very good year for selling calves and stuff like that. You guys, what are your thoughts on, I see in Bassett and stuff, that a lot of guys are selling those real young calves, probably still bottle calves right off the cow, and probably getting the same dollar amount for if a guy took it up to, that 750, 650 number. Do you guys see any benefit? I could tell that you guys obviously weren't selling them off the cow when you guys were loading them up to take to pasture, but just you gotta think a little bit. Is it worth holding on to that calf, or what are your thoughts? Are you just gonna keep doing it the way you've been doing it, or are you gonna maybe switch directions, or what are your thoughts on that?
So we had some of the older cows, they were down at the feed yard. And so my uncle actually did take those off and sell some right off the cow. Not very many, but probably 10 or 15, I'd imagine. But we finish everything we keep everything to, like, we keep replacement heifers, we raise our own bulls, and then everything else we finish out to, that 15, 1,600 pounds. So, we'll use the board and lock stuff in and hedge and all that sort of stuff. So at the moment, that's still our plan. We actually, our replacement heifers, we decided to just stick them in the feed yard and finish them out instead of retain those. So I think there's probably, I'm sure we're not the only ones doing that. So I don't see the cow herd expanding again this year. So I think that'll still be a catalyst for, you know, the continued bull market or however.
So does it seems that you guys just speaking from kind of what my uncle does, do you guys keep all the heifers to replace, or you cutting 50 and the rest are going to the barn, or just different different operations, different mindsets? Are you guys cutting more than you should? Are you just seeing kind of some potential in some ones that aren't looking great, but you've seen them develop, or how does that work?
So yeah, well, it depends on the year, it depends on the market, but like if the market's low, there's been years we've kept, 150, which, then, about 130 breed, capping out 130 heifers, 125, and then there's like this year we only calved out 60. So everything else that we don't keep just goes right to the feed yard, and they've finished. My uncle finishes them out, gets them, all fat and sassy, and we ship them down to whatever packing house they, bids on them.
Sure. Yeah, I guess I didn't know. You guys ran a feed yard. That is a good dynamic for just the rancher in general, just kind of background and stuff like that. I didn't know that you guys were doing that. So that is very convenient for just anything, if you got one that's, maybe got a bad leg or something, you can just throw her in the feed yard and finish her out there. So that's
Yep.
that's pretty convenient. Do
Yeah,
you
I'm
guys
not like on my video. I'm not down there very often anymore, so I never put it on my videos or anything. So most people probably wouldn't know.
sure. And so do you guys just keep it close to home? Do you sell in Bassett when you go and take some to the barn, or you're talking packaging plant, and where do you generally send those off to? I know I have a buddy that him and his dad just send all theirs to the packing plant and stuff like that. So are you maybe taking a couple to auction, or what does that kind of look like for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, really, we don't hardly ever take anything to the barn unless sometimes, Yankton has some like fat cattle sales. We'll,
Hmm.
once in a while take them there. We've sold some like old pairs in Valentine a couple times, but yeah, really for the most part, we don't take much to the old sale ring.
Sure,
We'll
sure.
just get them fat.
Yeah. So like just this day and age, being a young rancher and stuff, what are your thoughts on just anybody, everybody, you really can't get into the farming or ranching without kind of having um your dad or grandpa do anything like that. What do you think how does it look like for anybody trying to get into maybe ranching? It's not the great ideal time now, obviously, where the cattle market's out, because they're selling however many, you see some really high priced pairs, and you get 10 head for $6,000 a pair, you're at $60,000. How does that in your eyes, how's a guy make that pencil out? Those guys that are buying those $6,000 pairs, what are your thoughts on that, and just kind of where we are this day and age, where the cattle market is for stuff like that?
Yeah, really. I mean, it almost seems impossible, doesn't it? If you're not born into it, it really. I mean, I could never figure out how a guy for this market could really get into it. Um, like I said, like this operation's all my dad and uncles and I, get the opportunity to work here and work my way up. But um, without that, there's almost. I'm not going to say it's impossible. I've seen people, break into the industry, but it's definitely because it used to be there wasn't so much of the recreational people buying up this ground and driving up the prices.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe a young guy could get the bank to go with him. But now when you've got to compete with people that are seeing that land as investment, or we see a lot of hunters buying up ground around here, kind of down in the Niobrara Valley, which then in turn shoots the land price as a county up. And so yeah, I mean, really, you just gotta probably put your head down and say that I'm going to do this one way or the other, and break into it. I'm still learning every day how I'm going to someday, you know, do my own thing or however that shakes up in the future. But, you know,
Yeah, and
I was
I
like,
mean there
maybe,
is
maybe hit the lottery. That might help.
yeah, I was talking to my buddy yesterday. He bought 30 Powerballs, and he was just we were talking a lot of what ifs, and that'd be one, is buying up ground, because it seems like I work every day with folks that recently purchased ground, and it seems like that number just keeps rising. And how does a guy um raising $4 corn pay off $1 million quarter? That's just, I don't know how those pencil out, and he's running an X9 combine and big old four-wheel drive tractors. It's just it's a tough time to be in agriculture, and starting off just like guys like you and myself, getting into anything like that. I was fortunate enough when I did work with my uncle, I was able to buy some of my own cows, and I had a little herd. I mean, nothing to run home about. I was able to. He worked out a deal where we were helping out, and I was up to, like, I don't know. He's kind of, it was more of a teaching moment. I was in college, and I had want to switch my major, and I came home, I bought 5 head and just kind of got started like that. But that's when I was I think I bought my first 5 cows for $1,100 a head. That just the I mean, that wasn't very long ago. So it's
Right.
just hard to switch that. Just like any broken mouth cow is going for 2,500 bucks, and that's just, it's hard for anybody to just look at that and want to pursue something like that, because maybe most of those broken mouths are maybe got 2 3 calves left in them. So
Yeah. I mean, if you think like the first time I bought calves it was either 18 or 19. And I couldn't tell you the exact weight they were, but they were lighter calves, but I think I paid like 630 bucks a piece for them. And, that was
mhm.
when board was like, fat cattle were like $1.18. And so they weren't, obviously buying them feeder and then finishing them out. Then that live cattle, price was like $1.18. And now people, that was only what, 6 years or 7 years ago. And feels like we'll probably never see that again.
No, and you just for a guy in the industry, you kind of worry. It's great when you're on the seller's end, but on the buyer's end, when you maybe have to revamp that herd a little bit, it's tough for the checkbook and just anything like that. And just with a good year like this, are there you say a lot of hunters are buying ground. You guys are looking to expand the operation. Were you guys fortunate enough to maybe buy or get into some new ground recently, or just you just holding on to what you got and anything like that?
Yep, just what they got, and renting. We rent about two other places, and so just trying to, if there was anything that came available, I'm sure they would, make a go at it. But I mean, that's the other thing is land just doesn't in this area. It seems like land just hardly ever comes up for sale anymore.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And when it does, it seems like somebody out of state or somebody just comes and swoops it up, and that's a tough dick deal there. Just it's just hard to, you've seen that neighbor's pasture just across the fence for years, and you thought, man, that guy's getting up there, hopefully we can get that one. And then some guy with needing a big tax write-off who works in, I don't know, technology or something, comes in with all his money and buys something up. So yeah, that is it's a tough, obviously a tough scene for that. But we'll switch gears a little bit here, and so you obviously got started in social media. How many years ago did you get started with just everything like that? I know early on when it was you and your buddy, I want to say, I seen on the TikTok. You guys are
Yeah,
posting some pretty funny videos and stuff like that. How'd things get going on that? Because I know social media, it's tough for everybody, because yeah, you record yourself for the first time, you're like, God, I sound like a jackass, and
yeah,
then it's
yeah.
tough to get that first video up. But how and you now have some traction, been doing it for a while, but how did things come about for that?
Yeah, many moons ago. I mean, my buddy, TikTok was kind of just a new thing. I think it might have been summer of 19, or maybe it was 2020. Me and my buddy were having a few beers, and we thought, this TikTok thing, it might be the way to, grow an audience and such.
Mm-hmm.
And so we decided, we were gonna start this TikTok channel or whatever you want to call it. And we thought just couldn't figure out a name. And I said, what about Flatlander Ag? You know, I said, oh yeah, that sounds pretty good. We thought at the time we were like, yeah, we'll brand that. That'd be, a brandable name or however. But yeah, it was just kind of over a couple beers, and we're like, let's throw up a couple videos and let it ride. And ended up getting, I think we got up to like 40,000 followers on that old thing. And then over the years, he kind of got out of it, and I just had it. And then I was like, I'm not going to do anything with this one. So the original one has even got deleted, I think, or I can't get into it, or however. And then I
Mm-hmm.
started during that time. I got into YouTube a little bit, and kind of the same deal. Like got some traction on that, and then you know, I started watching I wouldn't really watch the videos I was making. Then I watched them back. I'm like, God, I look like a jackass. And so, I quit. So I quit doing it. And then it was like one day I remembered, oh shit, I still got this YouTube up here. I'm gonna go. And I actually deleted that too, just over, no real reason. Probably got self-conscious about it. Who knows? But then
Mm-hmm.
last year I was sitting around thinking of, you know, another way to, you know, what it comes down to is, earn a dollar. If I could earn a buck off some social media. So I thought,
Sure.
let's throw some videos back on the YouTube and see if we can't get this thing going again. So I think, yeah, last cabin season to 25, I started doing it again, and God, it takes a long time to get any traction, but then you get about one video that kind of gets you a little traction, and you kind of roll from there. And I don't get very many views by any means, but it's better than like the 50 I was getting to start off with.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's just, I mean, if you're not really promoting it on anything, it does take a while to build something up like that, but it's obviously worked out for you. I was looking at your page and you got, a couple thousand subscribers and that, you're still, I mean, that's, small town, that's town of Ainsworth or whatever, you start thinking about it, you're
Right.
like, shit, if everybody in Ainsworth, wants to watch me. And, what I like about your videos is they're just all honest. There's no antics. It's just, it could just be you for 15 minutes just feeding the herd. And there's nothing wrong with that. People want to see that because people don't understand, just what the process is for that. So,
Yeah, I mean, it always kind of surprises me that, like you and I are in this, agriculture industry day to day, and you just don't think, well, that can't be that interesting, but then you put something on there and people are, just think it's great. A lot of my viewers are like, I think I was looking through, it's like 55% of my viewers are 65 and older, and they just, they think it's the greatest thing ever. So I'll just, I'll just keep putting it up there and letting it ride, I guess.
well, I mean, I don't know what kind of crowd you're searching for, but you kind of got that Sam Elliott mustache going, and maybe the older guys are kind of just digging that. Maybe they're reminiscing a little bit. I mean, I seen on one of your videos, I was just looking at the comments and it said some guy from Australia, was watching it. So that's pretty cool to see that, something like that.
Yeah, it is kind of cool I've got a guy from Ireland every video he comments, so that's kind of crazy to think from a town of 240, I think is what the sign says. You can, with social media, you can reach out to people clear across the old Atlantic. So it's
Sure.
definitely
Um,
interesting.
and your buddy you started this with, it was him kind of doing farming and you were doing a little bit of the ranching. He kind of drifted out. Where was he kind of farming at, or you guys met in college, or what was that, or is he kind of live in the area you live in, or where's he kind of located at?
Yeah, actually, he's from or from Grand Island, and like I said, my wife graduated from Northwest, and his wife and my wife are like best friends. So we met years ago. I remember thinking, because my wife was like, "Oh, you'd like him? He's a farmer." I was like, "Oh yeah, sure. Probably a jackass." Then I met him, and I was sure he was a jackass. No, we hit it off and got along, and so it was probably like 2017 or so. I met him, and we hit it off, and made the original Flatland Dragon. But yeah, he's down in GI still farming, and he does some realtor stuff also some real estate stuff too. So yeah, he's a good shit.
And then
His name
just with
his name's also Trevor too, which is kind of strange, but
yeah, I mean, your guys' videos at the beginning, I thought they were awesome because it was just kind of, real life. He had I think there's one on there. He was dicking with an old grain bin panel box and it just rat's nest. And I thought it was hilarious because that's shit that comes about. And, you look at that and you're just kind of a young guy, you really don't know what to do. I've had many of those moments where, I could try and fix this on my own, but a phone call to the old uncle wouldn't be bad. But just I really enjoyed that stuff. But just with doing that in a small town and stuff, does anybody give you a hard time as far as making videos and stuff? Do you get you go into the bar or something and somebody gives you a hard time for walking around with the camera or anything like that?
Actually, you'd think they would, and my buddies give me a little shit, you get what you got to. If they didn't give you shit, they wouldn't. You wouldn't think they were your buddies, But actually, the people that do find it, I always say, I like watching those. They're all right. But
Yeah,
it's
I
mainly
mean,
the
it's
older crowd, though.
the older folks getting on there and
Yeah.
listening in. What like I said, it's good because it's real life. I like to watch a lot of, farmers on YouTube and stuff. Do you follow anybody on the social media that you like to watch? I like Larson Farms. It's just different because they're up in Minnesota, and I would never have any idea what they're dealing with. They don't. It seems like they don't have any pivots or anything like that. Whole different narrative. But you follow anybody as far as listening to maybe any shows that people talk on or anything like that?
Yeah, I listen to, or I watch a handful, like Sunny Farms. I watch his stuff, and Millennial Farmer once in a while, just kind of the generics. I
Hmm.
try to listen to a lot of stuff, try to, learn, because not the brightest guy out there, but there's a guy named John Haskell. He's really knowledgeable on, or I just, a guy that I try to learn a few things from, just in terms of ranching. But who else? I check out Larson Farms, and I try to find, people with not very many subscribers, but there's a handful that aren't too big. I can't even think of their names right now, but always trying
No,
to learn something.
do you ever tune into the Barn Talk? Do you ever listen to those guys? I
Oh yeah,
listen to
yeah,
that son and dad. They're pretty
yeah.
entertaining because they got a great dynamic. Just with the dad having some stories in the son just kind of being new in ag, and they get some really good guests on there. But we can't forget they're still from Iowa, so they can go ahead and
All right.
shove it right there. Oh, I know. Good God. But
I will say I think they are at least state fans, maybe not, the old Hawkeyes. I can get
yeah,
an Iowa State fan.
they just have a little different dynamic because they do the pig farms and stuff like that. Do you guys have a lot of hog barns up there, or maybe it's not the area for it? But I know around O'Neill and stuff, they got a lot of hog barns coming up and stuff like that because they seem like it's a pretty good deal. Like somebody will build the barn and you just kind of have to work it. And do you have any familiarization with that at all, or no? Or you just there's none around you?
There's a handful over by Ainsworth, I believe, and I think they were trying to build one up by Valentine, but I think it got shut down because it was so close to the Niobrara there. But Ainsworth has several, but I don't have any. I know a guy who used to, truck between the barns, and he'd talk about how you gotta shower up and glove up, and you can't touch this, and because they're just so susceptible to different diseases. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. I, I'm good on that. I'll stay out in the hills, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I went to college with a guy from Creighton. I knew him from sports and stuff, and he had himself a barn. And some people were talking. He was running a nursery, and we toured one for college or whatever. And we got to, some of us that aren't very familiar with the hogs or whatever. And the one kid goes, "Yeah, I think his death rate was like 20%." And I kind of giggled. I said, "Jesus Christ, he can't be that good of a hog farmer if he's losing a goddamn pig every, 5 pigs." But then yeah, like you say, the disease, you gotta glove up. And I work with a guy now who does some pig farming or whatever you want to call it, and he kind of does that on the side and does some farming on the side. So it seems like it'd be a good in if a guy was interested. If you could get somebody to build you a barn, maybe that'd be an in for um doing that. But obviously, a guy like you or me wouldn't be too interested in that because it seems like easy work, automatic feeders and stuff. But just not knowing, having any knowledge about it you could run into some real problems.
right? And so, and then like in our area, there's just not enough corn, probably corn around the, because like O'Neill, whole county, they got, plenty of corn down there. You can slap up a building, but
Um, and as far as just Springview, you lived there your whole life. How's the dynamic of guys maybe your age or younger coming back to operations? Is that a pretty good number, or are you seeing some kind of ranches and maybe people that do farm are they kind of fading out because they just don't have anybody to come back and run them? And sometimes that can be an advantage for a guy, but just like the younger folks, a lot of seems like the younger guys that want to do it obviously come back and try. But how are things up there with your area?
it's actually really kind of surging in the amount of kids that are coming back. There's a lot of, if there was more housing in Springview, I think there'd be, more than there is now. And there's a pretty good, for this area, there's a pretty good number of young guys and young couples even coming back. And so there's getting to be a lot of little kids running around town, and so it's good to see.
And as far as like kind of like a feed store or anything, is there one in Springview where you can go and get a bag of salt or something like that, or do you have to? Is that another thing you got to make a long haul for?
Yep, we got the co-op, and it's CBA bought it a couple years ago. So we got a CBA co-op here in town, and got your vaccines and salt and mineral and all the good stuff. It's a nice little. It's great to have it. I don't know what a guy would. We'd have to drive, 30 miles if we didn't have it. So we're pretty glad it's still around.
Mm-hmm. And then as far as like what am I trying to say here? So let's look on just talking back on your operation. Was there a I see on some guys talk about like maybe a piece of equipment that kind of turned the tide where you guys obviously your dad and uncle starting it. Was there a piece of equipment they talk about that came into play and just really bumped up production at all? Or was it a calving barn you guys put up or anything like that where you just said that's probably the best investment this operation's ever made?
I'd have to ask them about that. I know they've talked a lot about the old 40. They had three 4430s at a time, and that was kind of, you know, the first cab tractor with some AC and some heat that they used a lot and fed a lot of cattle with, and so I'd have to ask them about that. But yeah, I know they've made comments about those 4430s.
And then what do you maybe just I know you're kind of just working your way up, but have you noticed any things like just cost wise that have kind of gone up? I know in farming like fertilizer prices are a big thing. Do you guys do any you talked a little bit about having a couple pivots, or you guys obviously probably throwing a little fertilizer and stuff like that. That's a big cost coming into guys that are row crop farming, but just any you guys you're probably looking at a probably higher priced hay crop this year if you do have to go out and buy some hay. But have you seen anything just everyday thing where you were like, man, I thought that was a little cheaper than what we when we bought it last time?
Yeah, fertilizer definitely, because we used to, well, we've always fertilized like the low meadows, and then this year we ended up just forgetting it. We spread a lot of manure on some of them and on some stuff from the feed yard, and do that on the pivots and the dry land. So we just kind of went away from the fertilizer for this year.
Sure, sure. And then just for I know you try to like talk about it in your videos as much as you can, but what would for folks that just don't understand kind of the ranching part of things, what would you just say to anybody that you know doesn't have a lot of knowledge about it, that's just an underlying thing, what maybe a misinterpretation that a lot of folks have about ranching that have you maybe seen coming up for the last couple of years, just working on the ranch every day and stuff like that?
Oh, probably animal care. They think we're just treating them like, you know, a piece of meat, which, at the end of their life they are. But, those cows especially get treated like, you know, I, I mean, you know them by number, basically. You know every
Hmm.
one of them, and you try to have the best animal husbandry you can. Obviously, the nights cabin season nights get long. You don't always scratch them on the ears, But um, I would say, a lot of those folks in the city think we're out here beating on them and kicking them around, but those old girls, well, the old cows especially get treated pretty dang good. And same with
Yeah,
fat
I mean,
cattle. They get a pretty nice life, like getting their food delivered to them every day and got their water, and once in a while they got to get a shot in the neck, but all in all, they have a pretty good life.
oh yeah, and they're just everybody thinks, we're not trying to gonna get into politics here, but there's some just folks that think that you're gonna deliver every calf like a newborn baby, but it's 3:30 in the morning and you're running off 2 hours of sleep and the thing's breathing. You just gotta continue on with your day. So yeah,
Right.
I would totally agree with stuff like that. Um, just being like, do you guys I know some people it's come an age thing. Have you guys looked into? I know it's a time consuming deal, but freeze branding at all? Have you guys looked into that at all or no?
We never have. A lot of people in the area do. Like they'll freeze brand their heifers, but we just never have, and which it could change in the future, who knows? But for now, we're still just the old hot iron.
Yeah, old school. Get the gas tank going and get that sucker red hot and throw her on
Yeah.
there. Um, but do you keep up with the interpretations on TV? Do you watch the Yellowstone and those things? Those are pretty accurate shows, if I say so myself. Stuff like that.
Right. I tried to watch Yellowstone the first time, and the scene was there was a cow out and she was having trouble with this calf, and they ran out there, and did their work, and the calf got up completely dry and took off running, and I turned it off and said, you know what? I don't know if this show is quite for me. But I still, I will say though, they've done a good job of getting people interested in the lifestyle in general. But then at the same time, everybody thinks we're all out here with our hats on and roping and riding, and which is great. We do, we still use horses when we can, but it's just people are like, well, why don't you use horses for everything? It's like I want to go home and sleep at night. If I had to saddle up and check pastures and all that, it might take me 2.5 days to get that all done. So I'll just hop in the side by side and get it done in a couple hours.
Yeah, and just from just seeing on your videos, it looks like you just hop in that old green gator that just won't quit. I mean, those obviously aren't going to win any drag races, but those things will just go for forever. So
Yep, the old
that's
the old green roan, I call her. She just keeps on driving.
another thing on the Yellowstone. There's a really good scene. Is a really good interpretation. There's a calf out on the other side of the fence, and they just every time I've tried to put a calf in, it usually just runs along the fence like a bat out of hell. But that little got a bottle calf on there, and he's like, "Oh, buddy, just get in there." It's 80-pound calf, and they're like, "We gotta cut the wires. We'll patch it." And then you gotta think on there for probably a guy yourself who's ran around a lot of fence. Do these cocksuckers got a stretcher? While your cows are getting up because your wires are I mean, looser and shit. That's
Yeah,
that's uh that's kind of what I've
yeah.
always thought with those that deal there.
I thought, yeah, some of their fences kind of looked like telephone wire, kind of had a little bit of a curve to it. But yeah, I did like the other, like the what was it? Like the 1923 and the 1883 or whatever Yellowstone.
Hmm.
Those are pretty good. But the newer one, or the one with old Kevin Costner, I've never watched too many of them.
Sure, sure. Yeah, no, yeah, and then they got all those spin-offs and like you said, you got into horses a little bit. I mean, moving cows and stuff, do you saddle up a horse and stuff like that, or do you maybe just, get on the Yamaha and do stuff like that, or what do you guys, or did your dad ride a horse, or is he getting kind of older now, where he just kind of hops in the side by side and maybe you saddle up, or what does that look like?
It just kind of depends on the job, really. Like we used to move everything like to pasture, horseback. Everything was I put a lot of miles going to grass in a saddle, but anymore, the traffic is just because we used to have to move cattle right down 183, and I mean people are on their phones, they have no idea they're going by you going 65 mile an hour, and you're just like, oh, okay. I think we'll just put everything on the semi next year and call it a day. But
Yeah.
yeah, we use them when we can. But like I said, it's just so much more efficient to hop in that side by side and go. But we still like to use them. Down at the feed yard, they use them every day for riding pins, checking sick ones, and such like that. So we still and my uncle has mares, and they get colts and all the fun stuff. So we
So
we
you
try to
have
use them.
so you have quite a bit of horses around the operation then, is what
Yeah.
you're kind of saying. Still, I mean, if you do have a good horse, I've never, my experience on the horseback's pretty touchy. I mean, my uncle will laugh his ass off when I tell this story, but we were up and my uncle keeps some cows in Bassett, and guy there was riding his horse and loading the trailer or whatever, and he goes, "Wow!" My uncle goes, "Tom, why don't you hop on there and load this next load?" So I got on the horse, and that fucking thing just beeline right towards the we were in some pins and stuff, and I didn't know. I think I was supposed to bring about 14 calves. I brought one, and they're like, "You can't do that," whatever. And so I've never really ridden a horse, never grew up on them. And then I get the horse back out to the main pin, and it just kind of starts circling on me. And I'm just like, I'm yelling at my uncle. I'm like, wise men, wise men. And he just fucking dying laughing, not helping at all. This horse just finally just burns itself in a circle, falls on its side, and I hop off. And they're like, "What are you doing?" I said, "I don't know how to ride the goddamn thing. I don't know what you guys think is so funny, but I really need some help there." But oh yeah, we my uncle used to run, kind of horseback when he was coming up, but now he just sticks to the four-wheelers because they don't put down a ton of hay, and you just throw a little gas in them and then they'll run all day. So,
Right. Yeah, there's definitely there's still a tool for the ranching industry in general, but you can get it done without them if you need to. And we're not the type that if it works to get on a horse, we'll get on a horse. If it works better to get in a side by side, we'll just throw a saddle on the old gator and go for it.
um and just working with your dad every day, do you guys obviously just working with anybody like that, your family or whatever, do you guys ever have any get into it a little bit? I know, I mean, time and time again I've just told my uncle, I said, why don't we do it this way? And then he goes, okay, Tom, we'll do it your way. And then it doesn't fucking work. And he knew better, but he wanted me to, try, because he's, he knows that because he's tried it too. But how is your relationship with your dad? Do you guys, disagree on things, or is it pretty easy going, or do you kind of just still in the spot where, you kind of just whatever he says goes type deal?
He's pretty good about letting me try a few things. As I'm getting older, and we'll we bicker back and forth that, it wouldn't be a father-son relationship if you didn't, say, why aren't we doing it this way? And he's like, go ahead and try. And, he's usually it's because he's, if I want to try something out, he's like, I know it wouldn't work because I, tried that 30 years ago myself. So no, it's great working with him every day. I learn a lot. I've learned everything. Not that I know too much, but I've learned a lot from him. And I just, yeah, I fill in like during calving season, he does all the feeding, and then I do all the groundwork kind of thing. And if he needs help feeding, I hop on a tractor. And if I need help, getting something to the barn that some old cow that just won't work with me, he'll hop on the gator and help me get her in. And so it's a good dynamic, just being able to work with him and learn from him. And spend time together and yell at each other once in a while. Maybe every other day,
Yeah,
but
and you got some. I really like your videos on the Facebook Reels. There's a lot of good ones that old man giving you hand signals and shit like that. Just anybody that's
yeah.
ever been in shoes like that just really would understand. Come like this, do that, all that, and then finally you just get out of the fucking tractor and say, "What the hell are you talking about?"
Yeah, I'm old enough to, be, before cell phones. You're clear across the field and you're getting this and that and the other, and you just go like this and decide to walk the 400 meters over there for him to tell you what to do. But yeah, definitely, they don't have that language written down. The old farm and ranch dad hand signals. They don't have that quite that dialect quite dialed in yet.
Yeah, and we'll kind of come into an end here, but I was wondering, everybody's got them, and it's anybody on here is gonna fucking judge this next question. Just go ahead and log off here, but just a kind of a fuck up you may have did, just any time where you just kind of did something, and if whether it's slugging the baler real bad when you thought you can definitely get that in, or just anything where you might have cost the ranch a little money, but it happens. So anybody on here that's going to be like, oh, perfect, who's ever a perfect rancher, go ahead and leave a comment down, because I'll come watch you ranch for a whole day and make sure you do everything to code. But what you got a good story to close us out with here, where maybe something, you wake up sometimes and just stuff's not going your way and something like that.
Oh yeah, the first thing that comes to mind, I've got plenty of them. But the first thing that comes to mind is we got this school land we rent, and I was piling bales, and I looked out. It's got a creek that runs through it, and some kind of sluice, some of those channels that kind of drain into that creek. And it was a pretty dry year. I can't remember the year, but there was two bales on the other side of there that I could have gone clear around and got them pretty easily. But boy, I looked down in there and thought, I think I could probably make it across this. I think I could, if I give it enough, if I get a running start, I think I could probably get across here. And I think I had like four bales on. Well, I took off and made it about a quarter of the way and thought, oh boy, we're in a pickle already. So, I let it spin down just a little bit, and I just, put her in park and shut the tractor off, and I just started walking because my dad was bailing not too far away. I thought, you know what, I'm not going to call him because he probably already saw that, and as soon as he sees me walking, I'll give him a little time to cool down before I tell him I need him to pull me out. So, he let me know in a few words that that was a pretty bad idea. Yeah, but we got her out without having to call the old tow truck at least. So all in all, it might have been a little bit on the stack mover, but other than that, it wasn't too bad.
No, yeah, I'd have to. God, if I named them all, we'd have another 3 hours of show here. Because I was pretty known for fucking something up. But that's just the way she goes most days. But I'd say probably the one that just makes about smoke come out of your ears was when you're bailing along and you're maybe in some wet ground and you're thinking, shit, I can keep this speed, no problem. And you've been told time and time again, it's not a good idea. And then you slug a bunch of goddamn cattails in the head, and it's 95 degrees, and you're elbow deep, and you thought, man, I should wear a cutoff today and work on my tan. And then next thing you know, you're itching like a son of a bitch, and you're fucking
Uh,
pulling hay out of the baler for the next half hour, 45 minutes. You forgot your pocket knife, shit like that. Just,
you're
some
pulling
people
one,
just never understand.
and you get down to where you're pulling one strand of hay out at a time, and
Oh God.
makes for a long old afternoon.
Yeah, no, and as we'll kind of close things up here. What should I'm gonna leave all your stuff down below, so hopefully people will pick some traction up, get more people familiarized with the Flatlander egg productions here. But do you have anything? Oh, just before I forget, do you get the wife talked into editing your videos yet, or do you do that all on your own?
Nope, I do her all on my own. She she told me I was on my own for editing, so I'm sure she'd probably do a lot better job than me, but it that's one thing that does you think, oh, you can whip it out pretty quick, but then you get all your stuff together and you got like an hour and a half of video that you got to edit down and try to get like 15 minutes out of it. It's not the funnest part of trying to make videos, but it's not too bad.
But well, I mean, I can say with your, with all your stuff going on, a couple of young kids, everyday ranch, and you're pretty consistent on the uploads. It seems about every 3 days you're putting out a new video. So
Yeah, I try to get a couple out a week, just trying to get some more tractions, more subscribers and such, and yeah, it's a couple. Sometimes it's late nights, sometimes it's in the tractor in between. When I was feeding, like in the winter, it was nice because when I was on those long hauls to feed calves, I'd edit then and edit on the way back, and that worked out pretty good. But I try to do it over my noon hours and sometimes at night and such like that. So
okay, that gives every person listening to this even more of a reason. Guys just trying to, are you getting checks yet from the YouTube man or no?
yeah, I probably make about $30 a video, which nothing to write home about, but it'll buy some milk and eggs here and there.
Good night. It's about time. I keep telling my girlfriend I might just have to quit my job. This podcast here starts getting traction. Just do this full time. She just laughs at me.
You
But
never know what can happen.
you never know, truthfully. And just what's coming up with your season? We'll wrap things up here. What's coming up with you? Just did anything that's coming your way that you might put out on the channel or stuff like that, or anything interesting coming up with you?
Oh, well, tomorrow we're putting cedars in the cows. We're gonna get ready to AI them, get them bred. So that's gonna be. I'll probably film a video tomorrow on that, and we, we got a few more calves to brand, about 60 more calves to get worked, and so just AIing and getting what little some few that we need worked and out the grass, and that's pretty much. Oh, and then I don't know if you guys got, well, I think there's spurge in Holt County that I've seen on Highway 20 there, but we got some spurge spraying to do. That's always a fun job.
Oh God, yes. My uncle's got this old diesel no cab Gator that's had a tank on it for God, I don't know how long, but yeah, that puppy sees some spurge and stuff. Obviously, I'm not spraying it, but yeah, I definitely know. I've been that guy. Of course, you catch a breeze starts coming up and you're spraying one direction, and then the wind starts to pick up, and next thing you know, you're covered in chemical, and your jeans always smell good.
Yeah, you're Googling, what happens if I get method, soaked on my shirt here, but
All right, perfect. Well, Trevor, I appreciate you sitting down with us. I know this is obviously later in the day. We are shooting this pretty late at night, but I appreciate your time and everything. And we'll be sure to maybe have you back on later down the road and see what's new. It's been great talking to you. Once again, I kind of hyped this episode up because I knew we were gonna have a pretty special guest on. It's gonna be tough, having folks on that are maybe not as open as you with just sharing stuff and stuff like that. But I do appreciate you coming on here and everything that you've done for the show here, and hopefully things start going your way come pasture and haying season.
yeah, I appreciate you having me on. I'd wouldn't mind coming back on again and shooting the breeze and, solving the world's problems again. So it's
Of
been
course.
been a good conversation.
Perfect. All right, folks, that'll be the conclusion of our episode. Go and check Trevor's stuff out down below, and that's all we got today.